All right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Thursday, May 6th edition of the MMAOB Daily Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Adam Martin. And there's AJ Schullo and his new digs, man. I'm really liking it, AJ. It looks great, man. How's it going, buddy?
Yeah, thanks, Adam. We were talking beforehand. I had all the equipment beforehand. I just am finally putting it all together. So for everybody that, viewed my videos before with my lackluster background, thank you. It's even better now, and you can expect it to get better going forward. But we're here to talk about PFL and Bellator, and I'm always excited to be joined by you, Adam.
For me, man, it's always the content that's the most important thing. But I'll tell you, man, when I had my old backdrop, it was terrible, and I hated it. Right. Once I switched it over and I'm down here now, like I've had nothing but good things that people have said. So I think it does make a difference, AJ. But ultimately, man, it comes down to like your content, and obviously everyone knows that you put the work in. So today we're going to talk about Bellator 258 as well as PFL 2021 Week 3. PFL card last week, all chalk, AJ. We did break it down with Cole, all chalk. I don't know if did you end up making any wagers on, or did you watch it, or?
I watched bits and pieces of it. I didn't make any wagers.
No worries.
Good event, though.
It's tough. Like, there's so much MMA going on right now, guys. Like, and it's so hard to focus on everything at once. So yeah, I mean, and especially with the card last week, AJ. I mean, it was almost all 4-1 favorites. It's not like there was this crazy value left on the board. So it is what it is. Let's start with Bellator 258, and we'll go through the card here. Pull it up on Topology, and then we'll go to PFL. But we'll start with Bellator. So yeah, I mean, I know you have some kind words to say about this card, man. It's pretty stacked. All these Bellator cards lately have been really good, I think. It's like they haven't had many cards, right? So they're just stacking them with as much talent as you can. There was obviously the Romero falling out of the co-main event, but overall, man, I mean, this card looks strong. 12 fights, some good scraps. AJ, any overall thoughts on this card? I know you like it.
Yeah, you're right. I do love it. And it's not that I don't like the UFC card this week. I always like the UFC cards, but I actually think the Bellator one's a bit better for me, at least. That might be a bit of a hot take, but I think that there's just a bit more name value here. Stakes are a little bit higher on this card. We got Anthony Johnson. Obviously, Romero fell out, but I still think it's a great card. Archuleta, Pettis, Michael Venom Page is always much-watched TV. Patricky Fier, Lorenz Larkin, and Patchy Mix on the prelims. And then you got Logan Storley, Henry Corrales. I mean, these are just a few of many names on this card. So that's why the card does it a lot for me. I don't know how you feel about it, but I
think it's a good card, man. As someone who does, watch Bellator, there's a lot of really good fighters in it, and a lot of them run the prelims. Like Storley's a good fighter. Corrales is a good fighter. Mix is a good fighter. Larkin, obviously, too. So it's a good card. Let's start with the first fight here. Eric Perez, former UFC fighter, taking on Blaine Shutt here. Eric Perez, big favorite, AJ, minus 500, Shutt plus 400. Look at this fight. Just your thoughts on this fight.
Yeah, I think Perez probably rolls here. I just think he's a better fighter in my eyes. I know he's been a little bit inconsistent, but just stylistically, I think it's a good fight for him. That's why we're seeing him as such a big favorite. I think he rolls.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. Like 10 years ago almost, this guy was a really good prospect. And he was a guy we were betting on a lot, and he was winning all his fights. And then I don't know what happened. He actually left the UFC off a couple wins. It was like a contractual dispute, I believe. So it's unfortunate because I think he's a talented guy, man. He's only 31. I was surprised they let him go because at that time the UFC was trying to go into Mexico and stuff. They let him go. It was weird. This guy Blaine Shutt, I mean, let's be honest here, AJ. I don't think he's going to even stand a chance with this guy. I mean, what's his path to victory, really? He doesn't really have one, right? So to me, this is going to be Perez rolling. Probably finishes this guy. I would assume. You thinking a finisher, AJ? Again, these big favorites, right? We always like that angle of a finish. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I could see a finish happening just based on the wide skill discrepancy, but just, looking at Shutt's losses here, most of them have been by decision. Maybe there's something to it, but there is just a chance that Perez is just so much better than him, and he just overwhelms him with his skill set. So, and that is a good angle to take in general for sure.
I'm surprised it's plus money. I'm looking at it right now. It's plus 170 under 2.5. So yeah, if you think there's a finisher, then that's a way to go instead of laying all that juice. But overall, I think Perez should roll. He could win a decision too. I'm not saying just go and bet it, but I would rather take plus money on a finish than lay juice on a decision. And I'm pretty sure you feel the same way about that.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. So let's go to the next fight here. Weber, Almeida, and Johnny Soto. I believe one of these guys missed weight today, right? Someone missed weight. Let me double check who it was. I think it was Soto. Someone came in a little bit heavy. One sec. Google this stuff.
You're good.
Yeah,
Soto.
but yeah, it was Soto, right? Yeah. So right now, Weber is a big favorite. Anyways, minus 550, Soto plus 425. Do you see a path for this guy at all, or he came in at 148.5, so he missed weight.
Yeah, I mean, path victory. Everybody's got a puncher's chance here, but I do think that the favorite here in Almeida should roll. Just better fighter, just kind of like the analysis on the last one. Stylistically, I think it's a good fight for him. That's why we're seeing him as such a big favorite. But like we talk about many times with these big favorites that maybe aren't as proven as some of these guys in the UFC, don't feel as comfortable, as confident, I should say, throwing them in parlays, playing straight bets on him. I think Almeida rolls. I'm going to sit back and enjoy it, though.
I'm surprised he's 33 years old. I mean, he's older than me. That's crazy to me because he only has 4 fights, right? So that surprises me. I got to be honest. But, I mean, for what we've seen in Bellator, the guy's been just killing everyone, and he should win this fight. I mean, it's another classic Bellator mismatch, let's be honest. So, yeah, I would say Weber wins. And what's him by finish? Let's take a look. The fight – this one's under 1.5 rounds, AJ. And it's a pick'em, so – yeah, I don't know about that. I don't know if I would even bother, but yeah, I think Weber rolls, man. So again, I'm pretty sure people that parlay fighters are going to parlay him, and I'll blame them.
Mm-hmm.
He should win this fight. Let's go to the next one here. Henry Corrales, and Johnny Campbell. Man, more lofty odds here, AJ. Minus 900 for Henry Corrales, and plus 600 for Johnny Campbell. Outside of a puncher's chance, is there a path to victory for this guy?
I mean, I think Corrales rolls. You know what's hilarious is before the odds were even released, I was thinking like maybe I get a reasonable price on Corrales. He's lost a couple fights recently, coming off a split decision, facing another experienced guy. No, odds bikers, just gets way up there, minus 1,000. What can we say? I mean, Corrales, we know he's a great fighter. I know he's lost to Archuleta and Caldwell recently, but we know those guys are great fighters. I do consider him in the upper tier of this weight class in Bellator. He's got good wins on his resume, Pico, Karakani, very tested as Corrales, took Emmanuel Sanchez to a split decision. So I think Henry rolls here. I think he gets it done probably by finish, I'm going to say.
I'll say this guy's got a lot of experience. So we'll give him some credit for that. He's got 40 fights. So I can respect that. Almost 40 fights. This last fight, he actually I think his ear fell off or something. It was crazy, right? I don't know if you were, this one right here. I saw MMA Lock of the Night was talking about it. I'm pretty sure this is the fight. So ear injury. That's scary. I mean, that's the last time he fought too, so that's scary. But yeah, I think he's gonna get smashed, man. I mean, again, classic Bellator prelims. It's huge favorites. Let's go to this one: Johnny Eblum and Daniel Madrid, and odds on this one minus 440 for Johnny and plus 350 for Daniel. Any thoughts on this fight?
Johnny Eblum should roll here. Just another classic big favorite in the prelims. And, can we just say, I mean, they've been really cleaning up lately on Bellator for the most part. Even in PFL, I know we had that card a couple weeks ago where Lance Palmer lost and Schulte lost. But, I mean, for the most part, we're seeing this chalk clean up fairly well, at least recently. That's what most people remember anyway in the sport. But anyways, pertains to this matchup, I think Eblum rolls. I think he's a better fighter. That's why he's such a big favorite. And excited to see how it transpires.
I mean, this guy does have a lot of experience too. His opponent here, Madrid. He's been fighting since 2006. So I mean, again, I got to respect the guy that's been fighting that long, man. I mean, that's a long time. It's even longer than I've been watching it. So I mean, that's a long time. You know what I mean? And he did look pretty good in that last fight against Casey. He won that fight I believe he was an underdog in that one. Don't have the odds for it, but I remember he was an underdog. So yeah, he's 37 years old though, man. I mean, let's be honest here. This guy is going to come in here and probably knock him out in the first round. Again, what's the under? What's the under? Oh, well, actually, you know what? Under is plus 165 under 2.5 rounds. That surprises me. I got to be honest. Madrid. Okay, let's take a look at his losses. Knockout, all finished losses, man.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a number you guys can look at. This fight ending inside 2.5. This guy has been winning by decision, but I just feel like it's when the skill gap is that much, AJ. You do see a finish sometimes, right? So that's kind of, I think, the way we'd be looking at this one.
Absolutely. Even for decision fighters, too, it could happen.
Absolutely. I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Logan Storley and Omar Hussein. Logan, or was he supposed to fight someone else? He had another opponent, I think, right? I can't remember now. Let me double check on that. There was a few changes to this card. Yeah, he had someone else. Achilles Mata. Yeah, that would have been a more competitive fight, I think. This one, yeah, he's a massive favorite. He's the biggest favorite in the card, AJ. Boxing numbers, minus 1,500, plus 1,000 for his opponent here. Does this guy have a chance at all besides a puncher's chance? Does he have any chance to stop this guy's takedowns. I don't think so.
Logan, I think, should just land takedowns at will here. He's a better athlete, a better wrestler. And that's why he's such a big favorite. His style is more reliable to kind of impose himself as sort of like a big favorite. I mean, minus 1,000 is one thing, but like I personally feel feel better about laying a massive chalk on a guy that's going to play to his strengths and just kind of grind the other guy out. He's not playing around too much on the feet. And I think he dominates here. I mean, this is just, we had the perfect segue touching up on the last fight going into this one. Logan's generally a decision guy, but I take that back. Early on, he had a lot of TKOs.
Yeah.
More so in Bellator, he's been to a decision a few times. But I mean, his only Bellator loss was to Amazov, who's fighting Douglas Lima, and it was a split decision. So like this guy is super talented.
Yep.
Yeah, super close fight. I think he rolls. And I think he can finish just based off we were talking about the wide skill gap, despite the fact that this guy's been to decision a few times recently. So I think Logan rolls. His wrestling credentials are tremendous. If you're not, for the people that are listening that aren't already aware, very good for you folk style wrestling.
I'm with you. I mean, like, okay, it's minus 1,500 for Storley, but the prop on him inside the distance is minus 145, or the fight ending inside the distance or under 2.5 rounds minus 165. Like that's kind of what I'd rather look at here. Maybe some people look at decision because he has been winning decisions, AJ, but I just feel, again, this is a step down from Amosov. Big step down. And I think he smashes this dude. I'm thinking either ground and pound or submission, maybe. Don't know if I would play like a particular prop or anything like that, but I think he wins inside the distance, man. Pretty sure he does.
Me too.
All right, let's go to this one. Patchy Mix and Albert Morales. This is another great fight. I mean, this fight is awesome. Morales, former UFC fighter, he's a very exciting guy. Right now, odds for this one, minus 1,000 for Patchy Mix, plus 650 for Morales. Do we feel pretty good about Patchy Mix in this one?
Oh, dude, I love Patchy Mix in this spot, and I love him in general. I mean, like, the loss to Archuleta, dude, I mean, like, look, it was to Juan Archuleta, who we'll get to. He's a very talented fighter, and even in that fight, he had success in rounds 1 and 2. He took down the NCAA Division I wrestler in Archuleta, took his back, held him for multiple minutes. That's very impressive, despite losing. His cardio, he did slow down there, but we know Archuleta is such a cardio machine, and it's only 3 rounds instead of 5. And perfect segue from last fight going into this one. You said a step down in competition, which, with all due respect to Morales, a former UFC veteran, I just think that Mix is going to be able to take this fight to the ground. He's very strong in the clinch. He's got a power double leg takedown against the fence. He's also very big for the weight class. Mix, 5'11" at 135 is pretty good in my opinion, at least. I like that he trains at Extreme Couture. And Morales, just looking at even his UFC fights, right? We saw him against Manny Bermudez get taken down easily from just a poorly shot takedown. Bermudez reversed him twice on the ground, eventually pulled guard, got a submission. And he's even been submitted in one of his recent losses in the Chuck Liddell, Tito Ortiz 3 card. So I don't trust Morales' defensive wrestling and grappling enough to keep the fight standing, where in theory he has an advantage, but he's been rocked in plenty of fights too. So I wouldn't count Patchy out there. But I think that Patchy, in all likelihood, is going to take this fight to the ground, take the back. He's also very good at taking the back while standing, and probably get a rear naked choke here.
I'm with you on this one too, man. I think he wins by submission. There's no submission prop. The fight not going the distance, minus 285. Yeah, I think the odds makers see that it's probably getting inside the distance. He's going to get him down, and he's probably going to stop him. So that's what I'm looking at there. Patchy Mix inside the distance. This guy's legit. He's really good. It's too bad, like, these guys are Patchy's not in the UFC. I think he'd there'll be some good fights for him, man, at 135 in the UFC, but it is what it is. He's in Bellator. All right, let's go to this fight. Lawrence Larkin versus Raphael Corvall. And Corvall is taking a short notice, filling in for Costello Vanstinas. And Larkin, a small favorite here, minus 210. Corvall plus 175. Man, I like Lawrence Larkin a lot. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I do too. I think he is the rightful favorite here. Carvalho, he has a chance to win in theory. He's going to be the bigger guy here. He's going to be longer. The thing, though, is we have seen Larkin in sort of a similar style matchup. We saw him face Neil Magny. It was about 5 years ago, a guy who's 6'3", a guy that has an 80-inch reach. And we know he finished Magny in round 1. Very hard leg kicks from Larkin. Very dangerous. I like those oblique kicks. I think he's a more varied striker here. I think he's more technical. And, despite the jump up in weight here, I do think that his strikes will be landing with more power. And we talk about size with Carvalho, but I actually think that Larkin will have the speed in his favor. I think he'll be a little bit faster, or maybe even significantly faster. And just his arrow seems to be pointing up. I know that they're both 34, but Larkin just has more momentum, whereas Carvalho, like, the thing that stuck out to me a lot on tape, and this isn't everything, I don't think physique is everything, but if you look at his just body type from like the Mousasi fight, he's just very ripped. And then it just seemed like, his motivation is seemingly decreasing. Maybe I'm reading into it a little bit too much, but just his physique has kind of progressively, I mean, for instance, like that was the last time he fought Mousasi prior to this weigh-in today was the last time he made the 185-pound limit. He missed weight a couple times. He had to fight at catchweight, and we know that he had to fight Vadim Nemkov at heavyweight. So it's nice to see that he made the weight today, but I still question his like motivation. Maybe coming back after getting cut fires him up as the former champ. But I'm with you. I think Larkin probably wins. I think he can win by stoppage. I think that's possible. And yeah, he's just another guy that we talk about, definitely capable of being in the UFC. We know that the wins he has on his resume, we talk about Magny, Masvidal's on there as well, Santiago Ponzinibbio, but we know that, he had to, he wanted to leave UFC in favor of Bellator because of, probably the money, the opportunity. It's not that he's not talented or anything like that, just like Mix, another guy that's just a tremendous talent that is on the prelims, just to speak to how good this card really is.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I pretty much agree with everything you just said, man, honestly. Larkin, I've been watching him his whole career, man. I've been watching him for over 10 years since he was in Strikeforce, and I will say his chin's not the greatest. He's been knocked out a couple times. This fight was a knockout loss. Here's a knockout loss. So he's been KO'd. Paul Daly, that was a big upset, I think. Yeah, he was minus 300 in that fight. So that's the worry with Larkin, because he does leave himself a little bit open at times. But, I mean, the guy offensively, AJ, he's a lot of fun to watch, man. Those leg kicks, the punches. He should roll here, especially with Corvall taking on short notice. Okay, last prelim here, Raphael Stotts and Josh Hill. This is a great fight. Love this fight. Josh Hill, Canadian, plus 180 here. Raphael Stotts, minus 220 favorite. So what do you think with this one, AJ?
Yeah, I hate to go against the Canadian fighter here, but Stotts.
That's okay.
Stotts is going to be my prediction. But, this is a fairly competitive fight, I think. Hill is very tested. Has fought Marlon Morais twice, former World Series of Fighting guy. I do remember his name. It stuck out to me because when I was tape studying Marlon Morais for his UFC fight. So this was a fight that stuck out to me again. We talk about these other guys in the prelims, but this is another fight on the preliminary card that it just speaks to how good this card really is. So I think Stotts probably wins, but I expect a good effort, good valiant effort from Hill. I think they'll test one another. They're amongst the higher tier in the respective weight class of Bellator. So yeah, should be a fun fight, but I side with Stotts here. How about you?
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I mean, it just sucks because I like Josh because I've been watching him forever, man. Like I was at these events, Score Fighting Series. I used to work for this company and I was at these events. This was in Hamilton. Yep. Remember this card? Jesse Ronson was on the card. Rick Glenn was on the card. Like a lot of guys ended up being in the UFC. I think Kyle Propelik, was he in the UFC maybe at one point? I think he was. Jason Sago was. Yeah, so it's crazy. Like I remember him on this card. Like I've seen this guy fight for the last 10 years, man. So I have a lot of respect for Josh, but I got to pick against him here. I just think it's a tough matchup, man. Although he's looked good lately, let's give him that. Josh Silva's looked good lately. That was an underdog win in his last fight against Perez. So he's capable, AJ, of making it competitive just with the grappling, but I just think Stotts is a little better everywhere, and I think that's the difference in this fight. So I would pick Stotts, too, if I had to pick someone in this one. All right, let's go to the main card here, AJ, and we'll start with this fight. Michael Page, Derek Anderson. A lot of people are critical of this matchup. I completely understand why people would be upset because they're tired of watching Michael Page beat up on guys they don't know. But I will say Derek Anderson's a good fighter, so don't lump him in with some of the guys that Page has been beating up. I think he's a little better than those guys. Having said that, I still want to see this guy fight, someone like Larkin. Like, why is he not fighting Larkin? That to me, that doesn't make sense. Like, they're two amazing fighters on the same card. Why are they not fighting each other? Anyways, AJ, as far as this fight goes, minus 310 for Page, plus 255 for Anderson. You think Anderson can pull it off, or are you? Would you lean towards Page as the favorite here?
I lean toward Page. Anderson is definitely a step up relative to the competition Page has fought his last couple bouts. I understand. I think people want to kind of, in general, fade Page because we have seen holes in his game because, the hands down style. We've seen him taken down easily. We've seen him struggle to scramble off his back. But until I actually see a fighter on tape that is able to impose themselves in those areas that could exploit Page, I'm going to be picking on his side most likely. Again, I know we have seen him get exploited by Lima. Even the Paul Daly fight, even though he won, Paul Daly still took him down, made it competitive. But I think that one of the big things that sticks out to me with this matchup is I think Page is just going to be so much faster. I don't know if you got the same vibe on tape, but like Anderson is just pretty flat-footed and lackadaisical, I'd say. Like he'll throw a nice 1-2 combo, but his footwork isn't very good. He doesn't seem to carry a ton of power in his strikes. Maybe he could have some success with low kicks against Page, but I just think Page is going to be able to play his outside game, utilize kicks. If Anderson wants to blitz, Page is probably going to look for the right-hand counter like he typically does, and Page has got the length advantage here like he typically does, speed advantage. So, of course, Anderson has a puncher's chance. I have seen him wrestle and grapple in the past, but I don't think he's an elite wrestler, grappler. I've seen him taken down easily. I've seen him put in vulnerable positions on the ground more than once. So I think it's Page's matchup to win. I think that he'll probably get it done by decision, actually, just because, even though I'm not doubting him to finish, I just think that Anderson never being knocked out in 20 pro fights, to me, speaks volumes that he's durable generally. And I could just see, Page just being content to play on the outside, landing one strike at a time, kicks to the leg, and just, kind of getting by on points. So I don't know if you agree with this.
I thought your breakdown was excellent, man. I really did. That's a great A breakdown, AJ. Nice job, man. I agree with everything you said. I really do. I'm with you. I think like if he fought a guy like Logan Storley, I would pick Logan Storley without hesitation, just because of the grappling. I don't know if Derek's got that elite grappling, like you said. I think he's a decent MMA fighter. He might be the better overall MMA fighter. I will say that than Michael Page, because I think Michael Page is extremely one-dimensional. I'm not really a fan of this guy, man. I got to be honest, just because I feel like he doesn't want to fight good fighters. And it's sad looking through his resume because, man, he's been in Bellator, guy, since 2013. Like, it's not like he's new to Bellator, AJ. He's been in there for 8 years. And you look at his resume, and some of the guys he beat in Bellator years ago, Ricky Rainey, Charlie Ontiveros, these guys ended up in the UFC before he did. Because this guy just, other than the Lima fight, he's really never fought anyone good, and Daly, I guess. And I don't know. I still have a lot of questions about him. I do think he wins this fight, but he's just not a guy I'm a huge fan of, AJ. I like guys that like to challenge themselves. I like guys that like to step up in competition. This dude wants to fight unranked fighters and beat them in impressive fashion. And to me, yeah, it's cool to do it a few times, but it's kind of gotten boring, I think. And I think a lot of fans are bored by him. When I put that tweet out, I think a few months ago, saying, this guy, he has 0 wins over top 10 opponents, although I guess Daly might be ranked now. But at the time, he didn't. And yet he was the number one contender. It just speaks volumes to, how overrated I think the guy is. But I do think he wins this fight. I just don't think if he fights Lima again, I picked Lima the first time. I'd pick him again, So that's what I'm thinking there, AJ. I don't know. He's an exciting guy at times, but to me, fight someone good, man. Fight someone good, and I don't think Derek Anderson's that good fighter that we wanted to see fight. Let's go to this fight. Patricky Pitbull, not Patricio, Patricky's brother, against Peter Quelly, who's a Conor McGregor disciple. And Patricky's a big favorite here, minus 275. Peter Quelly plus 235. What are you thinking here, AJ?
I think Patricky rolls. I just think that when we watch tape on these guys, it's pretty clear to me who's got the faster hands. That's Patricky. I think he hits harder. I think he's more technical. And even though we're used to seeing him just be content to kind of counter strike, I think if this fight, for whatever reason, hits the ground, I think he's a much better grappler, a BJJ black belt, whereas Queally, has been he has been taken down. I have seen him mounted more than once. Mm-hmm. And so I would favor Patricky on the ground. The only thing that makes me nervous for Patricky at, say, maybe this line is he is low output and not so willing to wrestle. So maybe just maybe there's a scenario where it plays out for 15 minutes. Patricky's not able to hurt Peter for whatever reason, and it just maybe the judges favor Peter because he comes forward a little bit more aggressive. But just I've seen Peter hurt more than once. I've seen him nearly knocked out. I think it was his most recent fight, nearly knocked out from a head kick, just like almost gone. Hurt. I've seen him hurt to the body as well. So I think that Patricky here, even though he's in his mid-30s, so is Quelly. I just think the speed is still compelling, even if we maybe don't think right now that he's been, say, in his prime. But he still has been performing at a high level. the brother Patricio, Pitbull brothers. I mean, they're going to bring their A games as always. I think Patricky most likely comes out here and probably gets a stoppage, TKO, I would say. How about you?
Yeah, I'm pretty much in agreement with you. I mean, I will say that, yeah, there's some risk with this guy because I have seen him lose his favorite multiple times in his career. Another guy I've been watching for a long time, so he can be inconsistent at times, but he's looked pretty good lately. In the last fight, that was the second fight in one night. That was that tournament in Ryzen, so I can give him a pass on that one. That guy, this guy, Musayev, he's very good. And like this guy is a guy that I think a lot of people want to see in the UFC. I don't know what happened to him. He hasn't fought in 2 years. That's so weird. So hopefully he can come back. I know COVID happened last year, obviously. Maybe that's the reason. But hopefully this dude can fight again because that guy's really good. So to me, that's not even a bad loss. And yeah, I mean, he's, like you said, AJ, the much more proficient striker, I would say, in this fight. If judges could come into play, maybe Quayle can win a splitter or something, but I don't think so. I think Patricky rolls. I won't say he's as good as his brother Patricio, but he's a damn good fighter in his own right. Okay, let's look at the co-main event. Oh, man, I got to be honest, AJ, when I heard that fight was canceled, I was so sad, man. I was really looking forward to seeing Rumble and Romero. Can I get your pick in that one? Now that the fight's been canceled, what were you going to pick in that fight? Do you know?
I was going to pick Romero based on the activity factor.
Right. That's fair.
How about you?
I liked Rumble just because he's training at Sanford, and I bet on literally every fighter that trains at Sanford. No, I'm kidding. He looks incredible. You saw this the weigh-in today. Looks like he's taking the game very seriously, motivated. And again, the 4-year layoff obviously is a massive concern, but Romero to me has not performed very well lately, and I was thinking Rumble could possibly finish him, or maybe even just kind of win the decision on points, but I don't know. I'm kind of glad the fight didn't happen because it would have been a huge coin flip anyways. But yeah, I wanted to see it happen. Sorry, as far as like a bet goes, because I think I would have bet on Romero and I would have been shitting my pants during that one. But Rumble I would have bet on. Sorry, but either way, we got a new fight here now. Rumble against Jose Augusto Azevedo. Give this guy some credit. He's taking the fight on like a week's notice against an absolute monster in Johnson. So I'll give the guy a lot of respect here. But he comes in as a huge underdog. AJ plus 370, Rumble's minus 465. You expect Rumble to roll?
Absolutely. When I watch tape, and I'm just going to assume we're going to get the best version of both guys, even if it maybe isn't true. That's just how I typically assess fights, just because it's tough for me to gauge otherwise. I know you're a big Sanford guy. You brought up that's where Johnson is training. He looks in tremendous physical shape. When he got into peak bodybuilder shape, like he was just so muscled up, and he's in extremely good shape, but it's more lean muscle mass now. Very easy to tell his abdomen. But anyway, it tells me, at least what I'm trying to say is it tells me that he's taking it seriously. And that's always been the thing that we kind of question with Rumble is he's
incredible. He looks amazing. He looks like a new guy, honestly.
Yeah. And I love to see it.
Amazing. Yeah, me too. Keep going, AJ. Sorry.
No, you're good. I'm glad you brought him up because that's the thing that has been kind of hindering Johnson. He lost to Cormier in part because of, again, when you weather that storm and then when you get him to slow down, put him in a compromising spot on the ground, we've seen him submitted in the vast majority of his losses. He has a loss on there to Burns, but it was like some weird circumstance. But basically all of his losses are by sub. And so my only worry with Johnson in this matchup is the layoff, or maybe Jose is able to survive an early storm, but Johnson is the much better athlete. He's got reach here. He's a more technical striker. He's more varied. And I think he's going to be way faster here. When I watched Jose on tape, the thing that makes me nervous is he's just so flat-footed and hittable. Head doesn't come off the center line. And I think for a guy like Rumble, who, for people that are more so newer to the sport, before Francis Ngannou, it was Rumble Johnson was that guy that was just getting all those knockouts, right? So I know we know that, but I just letting everybody else know. So I think Rumble most likely goes out here, gets a quick knockout because he just looks like the better fighter from the eye test, who's far more tested, and he's a better wrestler here. But if Jose, for whatever reason, is able to get this fight to the ground, he is a good submission grappler. He does train with the Pitbull brothers, a BJJ purple belt, but it doesn't do him justice to how good he is with his submissions. He could threaten guys from the front headlock, pass his guard in the top position. I do think he's a varied submission threat, but for him to impose that ground game, I think he's going to have to overcome Johnson's threats early on. And I just think that Johnson is just going to basically overwhelm him, probably get a knockout. And And we'll see how Johnson, I mean, he's just another guy in this tournament who's a legit threat to win this thing. I mean, this light heavyweight tournament has an abundance of talent. Johnson's no different. We'll see how it shakes out, but I think Johnson rolls. How about you?
And I like that plus 700 odds on him like a month ago. I don't think you can get that now because the tournament started, but before it began, he was like a big underdog. Now he's getting an easier fight. But I will say this, man. I think this is a dangerous fight. He's even said that this week. He's like, this guy's coming in with nothing to lose. And, he's coming off a 4-year layoff, Rumble is. So that is a concern with the cardio and everything. I would just, again, he's training at Sanford. He looks in amazing shape. So I'm sure he's going to be in peak condition for this fight. But his ground game's not good, man. Like, he does not have good submission defense. And his takedown defense is not amazing either. But his submission defense is a huge issue. So if this dude does get into the ground, I think he could submit Anthony Johnson. So I'll say that, but I expect Rumble to knock him out in the first round. I mean, let's be honest here. That's probably what's going to happen. There's no props on. There's two. I only see 2 props. Let me refresh. Maybe they've added some more. That's weird. Okay, I'm sure they'll add some back. I'm just looking at best fight odds. They have Rumble inside the distance, minus 245, decision plus 485. So they're leaning towards a finish in this fight. But man, that decision prop plus 485. I mean, that's crazy to me. Even though I don't expect it to happen, it seems high though. Look at these comments. Daniel Edwards. I remember yesterday I bumped the MVP 3 years ago in London. It was very nice. Since then, he's fought Paul Daly and Doug Steen, only 2 noble fights. Yeah, I'm not saying he's a bad guy. Just like to see him fight a better competition. Respect to Romero. Bellator for not allowing Romero to fight. He's not healthy. His eye had some issues. And like you said with Bisping, when he fought Kelvin Gastelum, that fight should have probably never happened. All right, let's go to the main event here, AJ. Juan Archuleta and Sergio Pettis. Great fights. Pettis, obviously, he's been performing well in Bellator. And then I think Juan Archuleta, for my money, is probably one of the more like underrated fighters in the sport. I think he's great. And he's his favorite here. Small favorite, minus 190, plus 165 for Sergio. Any thoughts on this fight?
Yeah, high-level fight. I think this is a tremendous booking. Like you said, Sergio's been on his run in Bellator, but I think Archuleta's probably going to win. I think he's the rightful favorite. I like his pace that he fights at. He's just got nonstop cardio for 5 rounds. He could, strike in volume. He could wrestle in volume. We were talking about him earlier. NCAA Division I wrestler, BJJ purple belt. We know he's got good submission defense because Patchy Mix was on his back. Nobody's been able to really weather that storm recently, at least. And I just think that, Pettis, I will favor him as a technical striker. I think he's more technical. He's just cleaner with his punches and, Taekwondo background, Rufus Sport, kickboxing, black belt is Pettis. We know that that's like his strength. But I actually think that Archuleta can maybe even best Pettis on the feet, not because of the technique, but just because of his superior volume, power, and movement. We know Archuleta's just got this nonstop movement laterally. And I just think that can maybe give Pettis fits, kind of like, I guess, a loose-ish example, Kelvin Gastelum versus Robert Whittaker. Gastelum couldn't really settle and sit down on his punches to land on Whittaker because Whittaker was constantly moving. Maybe something like that happens here. Not saying that that's exactly what's going to materialize, but I do like Archuleta. I mean, I think this fight probably goes the distance because they're both historically tough to finish. And even though I do think that Archuleta has the power advantage, Pettis is historically shown to be tough to put away. But yeah, I think Archuleta, his pace, his wrestling, probably be enough. And even in the clinch exchanges as well, I think it'll probably be enough for him to get the nod on the scorecards. How do you see this one?
Once again, AJ, I honestly feel the same way as you in this one too, man. In my mind, Archuleta wins on points in this fight. I'm convinced that's the way this fight ends. And that is plus 105, him on points. But you never know. I mean, he could win, inside the distance too. Minus 190 is not a terrible price for a guy like this. He is a great fighter. This is like a championship level fighter. I think if he was like in the UFC, AJ, he'd probably be a bigger favorite just because I think more people know who he is. But again, AJ, like you said, people that watch MMA know how good this guy is. And I don't want to sell Pettis too short because I'll say this, like he has pulled off a few upsets. Joseph Benavidez fight, I didn't expect him to win that fight, man. Brandon Moreno, that's another fight I didn't expect him to win. So he has pulled off the occasional upset, and stylistically, he could have some success on the feet. But overall, once again, AJ, it's not striking, it's MMA. And I think Juan Archuleta is the better MMA fighter, so I got to go with him in this fight. I will say this, though. We pretty much leaned towards all the chalk. I know you obviously can't give any of your bets or anything like that. I'm not going to ask you to do that. But do you think there's going to be an upset in this card that we're not going to see coming? Because it feels like we're like, oh, Chalk's going to roll. But is there something we've overlooked here? Is there anyone that you think that, could pull it off, I guess you could say?
I mean, I think that for some of these bigger underdogs, like they're more so reliant on that like one punch path to victory. So like, can it happen? Would I be surprised if it happened? I mean, it could happen. I'm not doubting the outcome, but like, I just think that when I assess fights, I just kind of assume, no flukes really happen. I'll factor it into my handicapping process, but I'll just assume that they sort of don't happen more often than not, and just kind of favor who's the better round winner here. So, maybe we're kind of questioning it a little bit because, it just seems so,
straightforward.
So like status quo to, just pick all the favorites. But like after doing our homework, this is just sometimes what happens.
I'm with you.
There, like we talked about, Pettis, he can win in theory if he just keeps it standing, and maybe he just gets the better of Archuleta. I mean, all these guys have paths to victory. You laid out a path to victory for Carvalho. Maybe he, hurts Larkin or leverages his length, something like that. But we're talking about, probabilities here. And I know that not everybody listening maybe totally understands that. But when you sort of play this game so many times and you see all these upsets happening and all these sort of outcomes happen, like that's how we prefer to do it. Set percentages, think of it as a game of like multiple different ways it could play out rather than just, pretending as if the outcome that we saw was the only way the fight could go down. So can any of these underdogs win? They can, but I think that our predictions are solid here. I really do.
I agree with you. I will say that if I had to pick like a live dog in this card, it would probably be this guy right here. It probably would be Azevedo, just because he literally has nothing to lose here, man, coming in on a week's notice. And Rumble with the 4-year layoff, who knows how he's going to even perform inside the cage. Again, I expect Rumble to roll. He's a huge favorite. I'm just saying, he's even said himself this week, he's like, this fight is more dangerous than Romero because I don't know anything about this guy. And again, he's got that dangerous submission. But, looking at the rest of the card, I mean, I guess Corvall, like you said, with the knockout power, but like on these early prelims, AJ, these guys should all roll. So that's what we're thinking with this one, guys. I'll take these comments. Daniel's got one. Pettis a former flyweight. Yeah, that's another thing. Archuleta's fought at like 145 too, and he has good wins at that division. So, all right, let's go to this card here. This actually takes place 5:30, so it's coming up really soon, AJ. PFL week 3, crazy. I know. You know what? It's okay. We'll talk about this card. So this fight was booked on short notice. Magomed Umalatov and Kyron Bowen. Really short notice fight. Let me get the odds for it. Right now, Umalatov -900, Bowen +540. I'm not really sure why it was booked on such short notice, but any thoughts on this fight? I mean, it looks like a walk in the park for this dude.
Yeah, Umalatov. Let's just continue on with the trend of massive favorites, right? We're going to get to even more. But yeah, I think he rolls, -900. Not interested in parlaying. I know that that's a lot of people's style, but personally not mine. I would rather just see these guys develop, and maybe down the line they get booked in a fight where the odds are more competitive, and maybe I think they should be a bigger favorite than they are, and maybe bet them then, but not in this matchup.
Yeah, I don't think you can pick this guy here in this spot. Again, he's got a puncher's chance, but I don't think he wins. Umalatov should roll. Next fight here, women's fight, Taylor Guardado and Helena Kolesnik. Pretty close odds for this one, AJ. -130 for Guardado and Kolesnik +110. Any thoughts on this fight?
Not really. Just
only one. Yes, $1 million prize. Oh my God.
Yeah. Well, and it's just like, I mean, when we look at this tournament, it's just like Kayla Harrison is just head and shoulders above, better than everybody. And that's why we see her as just, not to spoil too much about what we'll get into in her matchup, but just that's why she's just such, we can make a prediction here, but what it boils down to is just like, and when I am going to side with the favorite here, but what it boils down to me is just like, until I see a fighter that could maybe put a halt to maybe not all of Harrison's takedowns, but like enough to maybe keep the fight standing for extended periods of time, or that the other fighter's got a striking advantage, it's going to be tough for me to assume that another woman is going to beat Kayla Harrison in this tournament. She's just so dominant with her style. And I think whoever wins this matchup is just, if it's not Harrison, maybe somebody else, but I just think it's going to be tough to dethrone, the most marketable fighter in PFL in all likelihood.
Oh, I agree with you. I don't think she's going to lose. I think she'll win another $1 million. I will say this about this girl. Like, so she was an amateur for years. She fought Rousey. She fought Pennington as an amateur, Ashley Evans Smith. and then she became pro years later. Like she took 9 years off between fights. So there is something here to like, I think, about this girl. I think she's a little bit one of those like hidden gems. So yeah, I mean, at that price, I would roll with the favorite. Even though I know she's 0-1 on paper, guys, she does have a lot of amateur experience. And I remember the article that John Morgan wrote years ago about her, 2 years ago maybe, and saying how like she took all the years off and now she's ready to go. But again, low level women's fight, man. You talk about low level women's fights. I mean, that's one right there. I think Larkin loses tomorrow, moving up weight class against another striker. Yeah, he's going to 185, which we should mention. And Corvall is definitely a powerful dude, so we'll see. But he is taking a short notice, which worries me, man. I think Larkin wins, but again, you know, it wouldn't if that was the upset of the night, that wouldn't shock me because Corvall does have a clear path there. Let's go to this fight: Mo Darius and Denis Goltsov. Justin Willis was supposed to fight Goltsov. Now Darius steps in on like super short notice. Odds for this one, AJ, minus 610 Goltsov, plus 425 Darius. It is a heavyweight fight, so more of a chance of variance, but you expect Goltsov to roll?
Yeah, I expect him to roll. Of course, Darius has a puncher's chance, especially at heavyweight. And like you said it right there. I mean, like the one punch sort of knockout scenarios are much more likely to happen at heavyweight because these guys are so big and powerful, and most of them aren't the most technical. So you get some of those finishes more likely to happen than say it's some of the smaller weight classes. But yeah, Goltsov wins. He's got a clear path to victory in all likelihood. Like a lot of these chalk heavyweight favorites, it's not something that I want to feel comfortable about, you know, especially considering like just the Curtis Blades, Derek Lewis thing. I was on Curtis Blades there by points handicap, and you know, and sometimes we just get surprised. Like sometimes, like it makes it seem like it's so likely, like this guy's going to go out here and land takedowns. But just like we even saw with TJ Brown last week, like it seemed like, oh, so obvious, like take Kamaka down. Kamaka was taken down by Pierce, but it happens from time to time. And if the heavyweight wrestler chooses to keep the fight standing, then it makes that knockout path to victory even more likely, right? So that's kind of how I feel about it. But yeah, Goltsov probably rolls. I'm
with you completely on this one too. I mean, he should roll, but again, it is heavyweight, and this guy doesn't puncher's chance. Let's go to the next fight here, AJ. Jenna Fabian and Laura Sanchez. Go through this one quickly. Fabian right now, minus 185, Sanchez plus 160. Any thoughts on this one?
Just very inexperienced fighters here, below 5 pro fights. Like, just like we always talk about, just don't want to do anything from it from a betting perspective. I think Fabian probably wins, but it's just, yeah. We'll see.
No interest at all in this one. I have no interest either. I wouldn't. This is, are you kidding me, guys? Like, come on. You can't say that you have an edge on anyone else with this fight. You know what I mean? Like, we barely know anything about these girls. This girl's one pro fight. She won by knockout. She's 3 years old. I just don't want, like, well, if you're 30 years old, why are you making your MMA debut? Like, you think you would have did something else by then. You know what I mean? Maybe this girl, maybe she's a good fighter. We don't know. That's what I'm saying, AJ. Until we see her fight at this level, I can't do it. I guess I'd lean Fabian, but I mean, this fight, no. I'm not going to even touch it. Not even looking at it. Cindy Dandois, Caitlin Young. This one, I got a little bit interested in this one. Just I want to hear your thoughts on it. Because Caitlin Young right now is favored minus 175 and Dandois plus 155. And I got to say, man, I think those odds are crazy because I've watched Caitlin Young fight her whole career. And, man, she's not a great fighter. She has a 500 record. And Dandois is a decent-sized underdog here. I think she can grapple her. What are you thinking?
Yeah, that would be Dandois' path to victory is in the grappling realm. We just know she's never been very comfortable standing.
Yep.
There's that very notable fight with Alexis Davis in the UFC where
one and done.
Exactly. Yeah. So that would be how Dandois wins. She's, like you said, you could maybe trust her in the sense more that she's at least been in the UFC. She has more wins on her resume, less losses, but like her wrestling isn't elite by any means. If the fight goes to the ground, she's got that advantage, but it just comes down to whether or not she could get the fight to the ground, I think. So striker versus grappler, I could see the path to victory for the underdog. This is one of the more likely underdogs to win, as we're talking about here, because we're just laying out a path to victory. So I could see it in all likelihood.
I would lean towards Dandois. I don't know if I can bet it. The fight starts in like an hour. I don't think I can do it, guys, but that's the way I'd lean in this fight. I've watched Caitlin Young fight for her entire career. This fight against Miesha Tate is very famous. She had a head kick knockout. She won a tournament. Like, so she's been fighting a long time, man. But all that years in the sport, a lot of damage, and she's a girl that's been knocked out quite a few times. She's easy to take down, I think, too. I know she's won lately though, so maybe she's improved that aspect of her game. And Dandwall coming off a long layoff, had some personal troubles as well the last couple of years, so I'm not totally sure. But I think AJ, like of all the underdogs we've talked about, this one seems like one with the clear path to victory with the grappling if she can get it down to the ground. So that's the way I look at that one. Let's go to this fight. Ante Delia and Bruno Henrique Capoloza, excuse me. Delia minus 495 and Capoloza plus 395. So this guy Delia, I think he had signed with the UFC briefly, and for some reason it just didn't happen. Yeah, I think wasn't it supposed to be in the UFC? Gone? Yeah,
you're right.
He was supposed to fight Gone. Yeah, last year, and it just I don't know what happened. I think he started a contract with PFL that they had to fulfill or something. I'm not sure, but yeah, I mean this guy is quite good, and he's a big favorite here. AJ, what's your thoughts on this fight, man?
Yeah, another heavyweight that's just a massive favorite here. Deliha does have grappling though, and maybe I'm a little crazy, but we didn't get to see the fight play out. But I actually thought he had like a legit chance to beat Gon, just based on the fact that we didn't like see Gon like defensively grapple, and maybe his defensive grappling wasn't great. It was just more so an unknown. I'm not doubting Gon. I think he could maybe one day be champion. But anyway, Deliha, yeah, I'm actually impressed with his tape. He's a solid wrestler, solid grappler in top position, good with his top control. Serviceable striker as well. Think he's a better fighter here, probably rolls. I would say maybe he's not as susceptible to getting knocked out as some other less experienced, less durable heavyweights, but it still can happen. Every heavyweight fight now that I'm looking at it has big odds. Werdum's in the most narrow fight, and even he's like minus 250 I'm seeing on some books. So it's just you know what I mean? Like, you can only be so confident.
I'm with you. And in general, like I say, there's so many fights to bet on, guys. Like every week we have so many fights to bet on now. It's like laying juice on heavyweight fights is so dangerous, I think, AJ, because again, we talk about it. Of all the weight divisions, the one where the flukes happen the most, isn't it a heavyweight? It's a heavyweight. The one punch you don't see coming, a fight where a guy's dominating gets one punch. So that's the worry about laying juice. I mean, this guy should roll, obviously. Should probably knock this dude out, I would guess. But again, at heavyweight, everyone's got a puncher's chance. So laying minus 600 is rough. But I do expect a lot of people just parlay this dude, and I think he rolls. Larissa Pacheco, former UFC fighter, taking on Julia Payek. Some crazy neck tattoos there. So Pacheco, a huge favorite too, AJ. Minus 525, plus 415 on Pyjack. Any thoughts on this one?
Pacheco probably rolls. She's better fighter. And like honestly, even though it was a loss, it's impressive that she went to decision with Kayla Harrison, because Kayla Harrison literally finished the other time she fought Pacheco, it was a decision as well. But every other fight Harrison has had as an MMA fighter has been by finish. So that speaks to this girl's toughness, her composure on the ground. And yeah, you have to think that she's going to be one of the fighters that I didn't look at the bracket where they are in the seeding, but like if she's on the opposite side of the bracket as Harrison, I could see her maybe being the one that meets Harrison again in the finale. Again, take that with a grain of salt because I do not have the bracket in front of me, but she is tough. She's very, very tough. And I think she is quite possibly the second best fighter in this lightweight tournament. So I think she probably rolls. I think it's probably going to be by finish. And she looks like a solid talent, I'd say.
I mean, she's good, it's like she's not a great fighter, man. I remember betting on her in this fight. That was a terrible, terrible play. But at the time, this girl was coming off a nice win over Aldana. I remember these fights, like we thought that she could beat Andrade and Duran. I mean, she didn't. She got smashed. But she has good wins. Like that's a good win. Irene Aldana, that's a top 5 fighter in the world. Carol Rosa's a really good win. That girl's really good. So this girl's, and then Sarah Coffin's a good win too. So like she's talented, man. She is. And I think you're right, AJ. I think she's probably the second best fighter. And Pajak, I don't know a lot about her. 3-0, 6 feet tall, so she's a big girl. Obviously, 23 years old, has some stoppage wins, but it's a step up in competition against an experienced fighter. Maybe this girl could surprise us. We don't know a lot about her. She's a bit of an unknown, which always makes it tough to handicap. But Pacheco's a good, solid fighter. She should win. All right, Mohammed Usman, Kamaru's brother, Brandon Sales. For this fight, the odds minus 430 for Mohammed Usman and Sales plus 345. You think another Usman gets another knockout in this fight, AJ?
Another Usman gets another knockout. I like it. Yeah, I do. He's still really green at this point, but like He's got potential. I could see it. Like maybe I hope one day we do get to see him in the UFC. That would be really cool. But at the same time, we might not. Yeah, but I think he rolls here as it pertains to this matchup. It wasn't that long ago where he lost to Dontel Mays, but still, I think with these less experienced guys with like 10 or less pro fights, like they get significantly better each and every outing since their loss. And I think that's probably the case here with Usman. Physical freak, former football player, I believe. I think he probably gets his hand raised here. I just think he's a better fighter than Brandon Sales.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on this one too. Again, it is heavyweight, guys. We keep saying that, but there's a reason we're saying that. It's because there's more randomness that happens at heavyweight. But let's be honest, this guy's 40 years old, AJ. Like, again, I don't know what compelled this dude to come back after a long break, but he's 40 years old now. He wants to win this fight. I don't think he does. I think he gets smashed. Give me Usman by knockout. What's the prop on that? I gotta check the prop. Usman by knockout. Minus 138. You have to lay juice. I don't like laying juice on props. That's dangerous. I don't like that game. So don't think I touch it. But he should win. He should roll, AJ. Two more fights here. Here's your girl Kayla Harrison against Mariana Morais, and I mean she is once again an astronomical favorite. AJ, I don't think we need to talk about this fight too much. She's minus 3,000 plus 1,500 from Morais. Here's my question for you: how does she win the fight? Decision or stoppage?
I'm gonna say stoppage, even though her opponent here, Morais, has been losing decisions recently. I just think that actually she has one arm triangle choke loss in 2018. I just think that our point that we'll keep talking about is just when you see such a wide gap in skill on the ground, especially, I think that we do see those finishes materialize. Harrison, she's just so physical and just such a strong grappler credential wise that she's just going to be able to dominate these fights. And the big price on her is warranted. The last big favorite that we saw this big was actually Magomedov in Bellator when Bellator started back up this year. And these dominant grapplers, we just trust them much more to really impose themselves rather than just like a striker that, maybe say just has some power just because, what if they don't land that KO shot? Whereas if you get the wrestler on the ground, they get the top position, that just leads to more opportunities to win rounds, get top control time, pass the guard, and work for a stoppage. So, but what I'm trying to say here is Harrison is just probably going to win on the ground because I just think she's going to be too much for Morais, unfortunately for Morais.
Yeah, I'm with you completely. I mean, it's juiced. Under 1.5 is minus 250, which is crazy. Fight doesn't go the distance, minus 600. Harrison by submission, minus 105. Harrison by knockout, plus 130. I'm leaning towards a submission, AJ, but it could be ground and pound. But I'm convinced she does finish the fight, and her inside the distance, minus 450. So still not a good price, but compared to minus 3,000 for that money line, it's a better price. But yeah, I mean, these huge favorites, there's no value on them at all. Minus 3,000. She'll win the fight, but you have to really put out a significant amount of money to see any sort of return. And it's just too, like you said, AJ, you got to draw the line somewhere, and minus 3,000 is a little past the line. All right, main event: Fabricio Werdum and Renan Ferreira. And Werdum, like you said, a shorter favorite than compared to the other big favorites here. Heavyweight, minus 240. And Renan Ferreira plus 200. What do you think in this one, AJ? You think this guy's got a chance at underdog?
These guys fighting Werdum, I think always have a chance as an underdog. Not so much because they're more skilled than Werdum, I think, but just because Werdum, we've seen it, he just doesn't always take fights that seriously. Like his title fight against Stipe. Like even if he took Stipe seriously, I'm not saying Stipe still couldn't have knocked him out or whatever, but just how it happened. Like just recklessly running at Stipe, running into counters, getting knocked out. We saw the Alexei Oleinik fight. I know that, he said he wasn't training a whole lot because of the whole like quarantine situation. He was doing like Zoom training calls or whatever, but like, he's still a guy that just seems like he almost like doesn't take it that seriously. Like he was making that very like famous face. And again, I'm going to pick him to win because I think he's the more skilled fighter. If this fight goes to the ground, I think he could just get a quick submission. He's just so excellent as a submission grappler, as we've seen through the years. But if he wants to, there it is, right there.
Yeah, this guy, I know, right? Oh,
it's just like so goofy, man. And like, so, but like Ferreira here, and the thing is, like, yeah, Werdum is, he's coming off like a nice win, and like I could see why his stock is high and why people think he's going to win it all and everything. But like 43 years old, He's just so like susceptible to counters, and he's hittable and everything, slower. Just he's been getting knocked out and hurt more and more recently. Like Ferreira, he's got a chance to win on the feet because not just it's a heavyweight fight, but like also because Werdum might legitimately struggle to get the fight to the ground. And Ferreira's got a huge reach here, 85 inches. And
dude, I was just about to say 6'8", 85 inch. I don't think who else has an 85 inch reach? That's longer than Jones and Struve, who I think are 84. This guy might have the longest reach in MMA. I can't think of anyone else with a longer reach. How the hell 6'8", 80? That's what I was going to look at. I was just going to point that out, AJ. That's insane. Holy crap, this dude's long. So yeah, I mean, dude, if he keeps the fight standing, I think you'll have a good chance to win. And I think that a lot of people are counting on that. He does have some experience, AJ, against some decent competition. Not great, but decent. Jared Vandera is in the UFC. He's not a good heavyweight. He's like a lower ranked one, but still, he finished him. This Brett Martin fight, Brett Martin's actually a very good prospect at heavyweight. And he finished him, but it was legal punches, I guess, to the back of the head. So it was a DQ. And then he also fought that Morais guy who's just got the worst chin in MMA probably and lost to him. That's a worry, especially he got armbarred, right? But it's 5 years ago. I don't know. Let me take a look at this guy's Instagram quickly. Let's see if he's got anything that we can see. I mean, he's just a big, strong dude, AJ. Sorry, it opened in a different window. Like, he looks like a big, strong guy. You know, he's a big dude. He's a big dude, man. He really is, guys. So look at this guy. This guy's so tall, man. I'm 6'3", AJ. I always feel like I'm taller. Look at this guy, man. Look, there's Jacare, and look at this dude, and Machida, and Alan Patrick. I think that's him, right? You entered him. Yeah, he's fighting your boy Mason Jones next. They just announced that too. This dude's huge. I mean, maybe he does give Werdum problems. Yeah. I'm with you. Werdum's one of those guys that it's kind of hard to like lay juice on him, but as an underdog, he's a decent bet sometimes. Like when he fought Fader, like when he fought Gustafsson, everyone wrote him off against Gus because of that fight with Oleinik, where like you said. He showed up out of shape. He didn't look motivated. But then he goes out there and beats Gus, and then PFL gives him this big contract. Now he says he's motivated again. I'm not super convinced. I think this guy Ferreira is honestly a live dog here. Werdum, 43 years old, one of the oldest guys in the sport, probably rated at the highest level. So, yeah, I mean, if he gets the fight to the ground, he'll probably submit the guy. But I feel like it's going to be harder for him to get this guy to the ground than people are thinking, AJ. It's kind of crazy, like, I almost feel like they gave him a harder fight than some of these other guys like Goltsov and stuff. Like I feel like some of those guys' matchups are a little bit, easier. But it should be good. We got 2 minutes left here, AJ. I know that you'll be betting on UFC this weekend. Last week I asked you for a live dog. You told me TJ Brown. I mean, let's be honest, he probably shouldn't have won the fight, but he did end up winning for people listening to you. So I'll give you credit, AJ. I picked Jacoby, who went to a draw. Can't remember who Cole picked, but do you have a live dog for this week's card in UFC?
For UFC, there's a lot. I know it's last week. You told me to just
give me one.
Just one. All right. Since I picked him outright to win, I'll say Phil Hawes. I know he's not a huge underdog, but like I think it's tough to trust his cardio and durability from a blank perspective. But I actually think that he's got pretty much every other advantage here. I think he's going to be a lot stronger, a lot more athletic than Daukaus. And like, I think he could just control Daukaus in the clinch. I think he could take him down, get in top position. I'm not super, I don't think Daukaus has a bad chin, but like he could be hurt too, right? We saw him hurt by Brandon Allen twice. So, and we know Hawes has heavy hands. So I think either guy could finish the other. But anyway, I think Dawes is just a little bit better. It's hard to trust his cardio and durability, but he would be the guy I would say.
I picked him on the show with Marcel the other day too. I actually thought that after watching the tape, he looked to me like the more complete fighter, but we'll see. I mean, it could go either way. My dog of the week, I mean, again, there's a few that I'm looking at, but I was surprised. I'll just say this right now. I'm surprised Cerrone's at almost 2-1 right now, and Morona's a big underdog. I don't know about that. I think you kind of got to fade Cerrone, but we'll see. I haven't made any bets yet. I'll decide tomorrow after the weigh-in. Okay, guys, that's it for today's podcast. Appreciate you guys tuning in. AJ, plug your stuff, man. Let's get out of here.
Yeah, AJ Schullo, contribute to Daily Fan MMA. I have multiple bets up for Bellator 258 and UFC Vegas 26. You can subscribe to my content there, as well as betmma.tips/AnthonyS364. Thank you, Adam. Cheers, brother, and best of luck to everybody.
You killed it, AJ, man. Thanks again for joining me, man. Your knowledge is always welcome on the podcast. Appreciate you guys joining us today for the show. If anyone has any questions, I appreciate that as well. You guys can follow me on Twitter, obviously, at MMAOB podcast, MMAOBsmaker.com. It's on our YouTube, iTunes, a bunch of places. I noticed the numbers are going up now, which is great, guys. That's what we want, man. You know, me, AJ, Marcel, and Cole, we're all putting a lot of work into this. So we really appreciate everyone tuning in. We only talk about MMA here. We don't talk about other stuff. So I appreciate that. You guys can also find my work at bjpen.com, mymmanews.com. Spectation Sports have an article on Canelo Alvarez, Billy Joe Saunders. And then, of course, Elite Fantasy, Elite Sports Betting. I'm going to have my DFS breakdown up for tomorrow with my bets for the card. Been absolutely killing it, AJ. Another winning week, man. So I know what I'm talking about, man. I'm not some dummy. I've been doing this for a long time. And it's been going really well lately, AJ. So once again, man, thanks to everyone. And I'll talk to